Hello, I'm Dr. Mike Block, and this counseling brief is on TA, Transactional Analysis. Now, I've really been looking forward to this because TA is one of my all-time favorite cognitive theories. You don't see it a whole lot in counseling textbooks anymore, which is a little disappointing because I love its utility and how it breaks down the art of communication. Now, Eric Berne is the founder of this theory from back in the 1960s, and he has more than 20 books on TA, including his original called Games People Play. So I suggest you check him out if you find this theory intriguing. Now, let's look at the groundwork of TA, which right away you're probably going to notice some similarities between what I'm talking about and Freud's three ego states, the id, ego, and superego. Now, the id is largely unconscious and represents our instinctual, impulsive drives and aggressions. The superego is our moral compass or our ethical component of personality, while the ego is kind of the organized mediator between the two and often makes a conscious decision. Well, in the TA model, we have what's called the child, adult, and parent states of communication. Now, we will start with the child state. Regardless of your age, we all have that child within us. There are actually two ways that that child reveals himself. First, we have the impulsive child. Now, similar to the id, the impulsive child will simply do anything to get his needs met. If he sees a cookie on the table and he's hungry, he's going to eat it. If he wants power, he's going to take it. Whatever the need is, he will impulsively get that need met. However, oftentimes these impulsive desires are met with resistance. The impulsive child realizes that if he or she simply takes what they want, they may experience backlash, criticism, or strong disapproval from others. This is where the adaptive child comes in, sometimes called the little professor. Now, the little professor is very good at getting his needs met as well, but he does it by playing games through manipulation, being underhanded, trickery. For example, the child may see a cookie on the table, but rather than grab it and eat it and get scolded by the parent, he will wait until the parent turns her back and then he'll sneak the cookie. And the child may appear very innocent, but nothing is further from the truth. Now, let's take a look at the parent part of us. Just like the child has two parts, the parent has two parts as well. One is the critical parent. Now, the critical parent will be quick to point out all the things we are doing wrong and all the things that we should be doing. You might know people like this who continuously put others down, often to boost their own sense of moral superiority. Do this, do that. Don't be like that. Stand up straight. Don't disappoint me. Be better at whatever you're doing. You see, the critical parent is everywhere. It could be that boss who micromanages you or someone who you work with who's always telling you what to do. The critical parent is often very untrusting, suspicious, and very much impossible to please. Then there's the nurturing parent. This is the parent part of us that wants to pacify and rescue and nurture and comfort, protect, encourage from all the dangers in life because they want to make things better for you. Then we have the adult state. The adult part of us is very transparent, objective, and trustworthy. This is the part of us that's truthful and accurate, oftentimes very unemotional, because it's almost like the scientific method. We take in the information and we provide an accurate analysis based on the facts. So let's take a look at the PAC chart, and I will show you three types of transactions based on what I have given you: complementary, crossed, and ulterior. Okay, I just pulled a few of these off the internet. This first one shows complementary transactions. And if we take a look at this, the first one above is the parent transaction. And you have one person saying, oh, kids are lazy these days, and the other one, and they're all on drugs. In other words, you have two critical parents kind of going back and forth. But, these don't have to be adults. It could be two kids being critical about other kids or about other parents. So it's, in essence, it has nothing to do with age. It has everything to do with the state of the conversation. Next, you look at the adult conversation, and this is just a simple, hi, how are you? I'm fine, thanks. In other words, very accurate, authentic exchange, unemotional, but very truthful and transparent. Then you look on the child transaction. One person's like, I really like you, and the other's, well, I like you too, kind of a playful, childlike interchange. And then on the very bottom, you have a parent-child dynamic, and that's one person saying, where's that report? And, the employee is like, I'm sorry, it's not finished yet, in a childlike manner. So that's an example of complementary transactions. Then oftentimes we have what are called cross transactions. And this is where the response to the stimuli is unexpected. In other words, communication breaks down or changes. The person above is saying, what's for dinner? And the other person, is like, stop bothering me. The critical parent comes out rather than the adult. So the transaction is crossed in that it is not met like intended. And the person gets annoyed rather than responds in a complimentary manner. Then let's look at the middle one. The person there is saying, hey, let's have some fun. In other words, they want to play in a childlike way with the other person. The other person's parent comes out and says, can't you ever be serious? So that's the critical parent coming out. The very bottom, good morning, how are you? That's an adult to adult interchange. And then the other person is, I'm not feeling very well. They're almost responding like in a childlike manner, a cross transaction there. And let's move on to ulterior transactions. These are very interesting. These are messages that are disguised as socially acceptable stimuli. You have somebody who's saying one thing, but they're really meaning another. How did you like my report? And the other one, it was okay. In other words, I didn't like it very much. Those are ulterior transactions. The other one is, how would you like to come in for coffee? Yes, I would love some coffee. When really, I want to be alone with you. No, I want to be alone with you too. In other words, these adult transactions are actually ulterior childlike transactions. And if you look at the bottom one, this is like an adult to adult transaction, but really the person is trying to, shame them into buying something. This is our top item but it's probably out of your budget. And the other person responds, I'll take it. Using TA, you can learn to have great control over your communication with others. You can mediate situations, you can calm things down when things get heated. For example, let's say you were a counselor in a staff meeting and there's something very contentious going on. A lot of people are yelling. There's a lot of parent adult interactions taking place. People are talking down to others. There's game playing, there's manipulation. The tension in the room just continues to grow. Now, the only way to gain control over this meeting is to bring things down. To do that, you have to go to adult mode. So you may say something like, listen, it appears as though we all have some common ground here, and we all have some areas that we disagree in. Let's see if we can establish some sensible rules and work this out in a fair way. So boom, we immediately just de-escalate things. We take it down from here down to here. That's if I'm talking from a truthful perspective. Now, if I don't mean what I say, then I'm simply an adaptive child and I'm only going to make things worse and add fuel to the fire. We'll give you another example. Let's say you have a conversation with your 10-year-old child. You start out in adult mode. You say something like, Joey, could you please clean your room? And Joey hears his mother but ignores her. Thus, he's playing the adaptive child. He doesn't say anything, but he's the adaptive child. Joey's mother quickly goes out of adult mode and then she gets into critical parent mode. And she's saying, Joey, get your butt in there and clean your room now. And she raises her voice. And then Joey, he gets angry. He goes in his room and begins throwing a tantrum and tearing things apart. I'm not cleaning it. And then mother stays in parent mode and gets even more agitated. Things just continue to get completely out of control and escalating. And it will continue to escalate until either the mother or Joey goes into adult mode. Now, doing this will immediately begin to de-escalate the situation, as you cannot continue to engage in child mode when the other party doesn't play the game. So, in an unemotional tone, the mother might say something like, I understand you don't feel like cleaning your room. Unfortunately, you're not going to be able to play with your friends like we agreed. See, very calm, but very truthful and very straightforward. Now, Joey may continue to test her, but when she unemotionally stands her ground and stays committed to the truth with no game playing, he will eventually comply. Maybe not the first time, but if it becomes consistent. Likewise, Joey can be the one to go into adult mode. And he might say something like, you're right, Mom. I'm sorry. I will clean my room because I do want to play with my friends. And then actually goes and cleans his room. Now, it would be hard for a mom to stay angry or critical if the child follows through. Now, none of the PAC states are bad in and of themselves. Sometimes we have to be the critical parent. Like, I'm not going to let my child run into the street. I might be forceful in letting him know, hey, that's not okay. So there's times when you may want to play a game with your child as well. Hide and seek is a child to child interaction. You might want to go dancing with your friends and be somewhat impulsive and spontaneous. But those would be completely complementary transactions and very appropriate. After all, if all we did was stay in adult mode, life would be pretty boring and predictable. Now, I could spend a lot of time on TA, and I've really found this theory to be extremely effective. I've taught this to students of all ages and really believe that it does an amazing job of breaking down the dynamics of communication. So I would encourage you to do some additional reading in this area, and hopefully it's something you'll be able to integrate into your professional practice and personal life. I've enjoyed discussing this theory with you, and thanks for your time.